The Florida Panthers sweep their 4-game road trip, capping it off with a 5-1 victory over the St. Louis Blues behind hometown kid Matthew Tkachuk getting a hat trick, and the Florida Panthers now have their third longest winning streak in franchise history.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Wednesday, January 9th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News, and you can follow me on X at MondoMan12. Follow the show account on X and Instagram at LO_FLA Panthers. And shout out to the everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. So the Florida Panthers finish off this road trip in St. Louis with a 5-1 victory for their first win in St. Louis since March 9th of 2020, a few days before the world shut down as well due to COVID-19. And for this one, not a lot of 5-on-5, just under 39 minutes in a 5-on-5 play, a lot of special teams, and the Panthers really set the tone as far as special teams as well. The fourth line also set the tone as well in the first period for the Panthers behind Matthew Tkachuk's hat trick for a 5-1 victory. But it's a Wednesday, which means it is a Winans Wednesday edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Here is Jacob Winans, and Jacob, this feels great, my friend. I'm pumped. I am having a blast. So many adjectives to describe what's going on right now with the Cats. How are you feeling, my friend?
Man, they are cooking right now. This is definitely the best team in hockey the last couple of weeks. It's kind of funny. We talked a couple of weeks ago previewing this trip, and we said, the expectation is not to go and win every game. You just kind of want to stay above 500 in this stretch and keep pace. But they haven't lost since. This has been the best hockey we've seen in a long time. Definitely the best hockey since the playoffs last year. This is a pretty enjoyable stretch right now. Everything seems to be firing on all cylinders. The goaltending's been great. Defense has been great. Sam Reinhart is untouchable right now. Matthew Tkachuk is playing his best hockey since the Carolina series. It's a really good time to watch Panthers hockey right now.
And I'm going to toot my own horn once again about the whole bold prediction about Matthew Tkachuk getting the same amount of goals in the month of January. I just was not expecting it to be in 4 games to start the month. Now 6 goals for those who are counting at home. And it's crazy for this one as well. I mean, I know I mentioned at the top, not a lot of 5-on-5 play for the Panthers, but really that really happened towards the last 40 minutes. But even for the Panthers, really the line that was setting the tone was the fourth line, Kevin Stenlund, Jonah Gadjovich, William Lockwood as well. Just being their tenacity on the puck as well. I mean, I know William Lockwood didn't convert on the breakaway. He lost his handle and all, but just making up for it as well, where Kevin Stenlund gets a defensive zone draw, Ekblad lifts the puck, and then they go on a quick rush. Gadjovich's shot is saved and then gets it to Stenlund, where all eyes were on them. Nobody picks up Kevin Stenlund there. But even for Corsi 4 for the other 3 lines outside of the fourth line, everyone had a minus under 50% Corsi 4. The second line stuck in their own zone quite a bit in the first period. The Corsi 4 was 33%, not the best as far as that one to start the game. Thought that and it really the third shot of the game for the St. Louis Blues was that goal that they scored where Neighbors gets through through Mikola, and then they get the rebound opportunity as well for the goal by Braden Shen. But really, after that, I mean, the Panthers, as far as their sticks, I mean, even when they weren't breaking up entries, and the puck was just a little loose, and then the St. Louis Blues were able to retrieve it in their offensive zone, the Panthers defense was set as well. That is the best thing about what they've done as far as their active sticks on the night.
Yeah, I mean the first period, it was kind of a sluggish start for every line but the fourth line, and this game was kind of like a perfect example of what you want your fourth line to do energy wise. They really kind of dragged their team into the fight. Everyone was kind of going through the motions a little bit in the first period. You get behind a goal, and the fourth line, even when they don't score a goal, it's just the energy, the forechecking, the chances, the just pinning the other team in their own zone. That's what you're kind of looking for, and then getting a goal is just kind of icing on top of the cake. And I feel like the fourth line really brought the energy in that first period and got the rest of the team into the game. I feel like Lockwood deserved better on that breakaway. He's been really close the past few games. He's been buzzing, and I thought just the puck luck wasn't there for him. But he does get on the score sheet with the Stenlund goal. Kevin Stenlund had a fantastic road trip. He's really proving his worth this season so far. But this road trip is the best hockey we've seen him play. I feel like the fourth line really deserves a ton of credit for that first period. They were the one line really going, and it gave the rest of the team a chance to get their legs under them and find their footing, which is really all you can ask for from your fourth line. And then getting a goal on top of it to keep the game tied going into that second period, that's a massive difference maker for sure.
Yeah, and you think about how the Panthers in their power play, even on their first one that they had. I mean, Tkachuk had plenty of chances with him being all alone, and then trying to between the legs opportunity as well. But then later on in the second period, they use that same triangle play from Barkov on the near side wall, Tkachuk to Sam Reinhart. Now 29 goals on the season for Sam Reinhart as well. And the broadcast mentioned this during the winning streak for Sam Reinhart, 6 goals on 13 shots during it. That's the one that they mentioned as well. And William Lockwood, not only his scoring chances, but playing key penalty kill time as well, especially on the double minor that Sam Bennett had. I thought that was a big kill that the Panthers had, but not the most important kill. I'm actually gonna talk a little bit about more of that later. But even with the St. Louis Blues, they outrushed the Panthers as far as breakaway opportunities for in this one. But even the Panthers, when they had the Blues, even when they did have their breakaway opportunities, you saw sustained pressure from the Panthers as far as back checking as well, and not giving them the quality scoring chances too. So that's the one. There's one shift where Ryan Lomberg thought he cleared the zone, and then he quickly gets back for a back check to not even allow a scoring opportunity as well. Aaron Ekblad had a great one on Pavel Buchnevich, who thought he had an easy scoring opportunity as well. Got to give credit to Anthony Stolarz as well. Stopped the last 26 shots that he saw after the St. Louis Blues scored on their third shot, which was their third shot in that sequence as well too. So after really that first shift where the St. Louis Blues got their a lot of zone time, where the Panthers really were a little discombobulated there, the Panthers were really locking it in as far as that as well, and a lot of high stick penalties in this one too. So a lot of hits to the head, face as well. But Matthew Tkachuk, the hometown kid, getting the hat trick as well it's crazy. All eyes on Matthew Tkachuk, give and go with Carter Verhaeghe, and then scores as he's falling to his side, redirects Forsling's point shot as well. And then the hat trick, the empty netter, which the Panthers, you saw that they were trying to get him that hat trick. So it's just crazy to think just the run that the Panthers are on. Nobody had more than a point except Tkachuk. Matthew Tkachuk had 9 shots on goal, so evenly distributed. So great to see.
Yeah, Tkachuk is playing the best hockey we've seen in a long time from him. Honestly, he could have had 4 goals If you look at that between the legs attempt he went for, and I don't know if St. Louis would have pulled the goalie if he had scored that. It may have still ended up a hat trick, but he almost hit the highlight reel for a third one. You can just see the confidence. The power play has been on fire with that bumper play, the down low, then to Sam Reinhart, and teams are going to start keying in on it, and they're going to take that option away. And Matthew Tkachuk's confidence is high right now. He's going to get a lot of chances to score himself in front of the net. The Barkov shooting lane will be there. The Montour shooting lane is going to be there. So you can take away one option. You can't take away everything. And Tkachuk is smart enough to find the other options there. And I think his confidence is through the roof right now. His passing, he's decisive with his passing. He's not second guessing. He's shooting. And what we've kind of been waiting to see come along this year is the net front presence that he's had. He's finally got that back. We saw a tip goal. I didn't know he had quite that good of a one-timer. Took himself off his feet with that one, but that was a big goal. And then the empty netter was nice. You kind of felt like they were going to force it to him. Still takes a lot of skill to put it in from that far away. That's not an easy shot. I almost wish Stolarz got a better look at an empty netter, but it's
that multiple times this year from Stolarz.
Yeah, he looks for it when he gets the chance. He does not hesitate. He looks for it, and he even tried to play one off the wall. I think he went for the bank shot in the third period tonight, which was funny. And I think his teammates are starting to notice too. If you heard Barkov's post game, but yeah, I just thought it was evenly distributed, like you said. Everyone got in on it. Every line was producing. There were points on all four lines. I think that's what you're looking for, balance, and you need to see the bottom six start to produce, and that's finally happening. We've seen a lot of the bottom six guys contribute on this road trip.
Yeah, no doubt, and it's great to see where you see a full, complete team effort as far as the Panthers and getting their distribution of scoring, and then capping up with the hometown kid, Matthew Tkachuk, with his third hat trick as a Florida Panther. But in segment number 2, we're going to discuss more about our 3 stars of the game and when we thought this game was won or lost for the Florida Panthers. We're going to discuss that more here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. And the NFL season just wrapped up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets, guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is super easy to use, and there's so many different ways to bet, like same-game parlays. Find bets in the new Explore tab. Make a parlay in a parlay hub, the best way to find popular parlays, and more. So if you want to place some of those bets for the Miami Dolphins going into Kansas City, where it looks like it's going to be 0-degree weather on Saturday night, you might want to place your bets there. Or if you want to place your bets on Jacob's Dallas Cowboys on Sunday afternoon as they take on the Green Bay Packers, where the Dallas Cowboys have not lost a home game this year, you can place all those bets at FanDuel. So go to FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Back on this Wednesday, January 10th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Wednesday. But Jacob, just a few things I want to read off quickly before we get to 3 stars and when we thought this game was won or lost. Hits 20-11 Florida, and blocks. 21-11 Florida, blocks 10-8 in favor of Florida as well. So taking away a lot of the shooting lanes as well and bringing in their physicality. And we saw Jonah Gadjovich do a little bit of this during a little scuffle in the neutral zone in this one. So just great to see that there's a line that just gets into the other opposition's heads as well. But Jacob, so as far as 3 stars of the game for me, it has to go Matthew Tkachuk first, Anthony Stolarz the second, And for me, William Lockwood is going to be my third. It's not going to be often where we're going to have him in the 3 stars. So I want to give him his flowers because we don't know when it's going to be the next time for him as well. And also honorable mention of Alexander Barkov. Now 14 points in the last 8. All of them are assists. So crazy to think how Barkov unselfishly just consistently finding teammates. As far as your 3 stars, who are yours? Hold on, let me unmute you real quick. There we go.
Yep, I love the Lockwood inclusion. I think he had a really, really strong first period, and then he also got in on the penalty kill, which he hasn't had a lot of PK time, but he looked good on the kill. He's really what you look for in a fourth line energy guy. So he definitely gets an honorable mention for me tonight. Barkov definitely does too. I feel like his game, we talk about it all the time. He's the most well-rounded player in the entire sport. He's a two-way superstar, but the fact that he's able to kind of adjust his game to what the team needs is kind of it's an underrated skill. When he needs to be physical, he'll be physical. When he needs to hone in on defense, he can do that. When he needs to score goals, he can do that. And right now he's seeing that Tkachuk is on fire. Reinhart's on fire. He's kind of turned into a distributor. He's become one of the best passers in the game during this stretch because he has that ability. So the assist streak he's on is pretty incredible to watch. My 3 stars, number 1, obviously Tkachuk. He was fantastic. Guy has 4 points. I think that's 8 points in the last 2 games. He's playing ridiculous hockey right now. So he's my number 1 star. Number 2, Anthony Stolarz. He was huge in that first period. He kept him in it. There were a couple of chances where we could have gone down 2 goals. Couple chances where we before we took the lead could have gone down 2-1, and he kept St. Louis at 1 goal the entire night. He's quietly putting up a really, really incredible season statistically. Without a doubt, one of the best backups in the game right now. And my 3rd star is going to be Gus Forsling. I think he had a insane road trip.
A point in every game.
A point in every game. For a defenseman, that's pretty ridiculous. And if we're talking contract extensions, I think he's got to be one of the first in line because he's playing fantastic hockey. He's been an anchor defensively, and the offensive production's coming. And what an elite move to get to head fake at the point and get that shot towards Tkachuk's stick for the second goal. That is for Tkachuk's second goal. That's an incredible move from the point. And there's not many defensemen can make that move. So Forsling gets my 3rd star tonight.
Yeah, so not can't go wrong with that one for sure. And now Stolarz, 923 save percentage, 531 as far as his record too. So just incredible what they're doing around him too as well. But when we thought this game was won or lost, for me, it was at the start of the 3rd period, and it was before Tkachuk's goal. Let's also remind everybody, the Panthers, they had a minute and 48 seconds on the PK, which they went a perfect 4-for-4. Go figure. The Panthers PK is just firing on all cylinders and giving the opposition nothing as far as scoring chances, including stopping a double minor too on the night. But the moment that they killed off that double minor was earlier, but the penalty that they had going into the 3rd period, which was Lundell high stick on Kevin Hayes, and Stolarz tracking the puck well and working to get their clears, and then Matthew Tkachuk scores shortly after. That was my moment for me when I thought the game was won for the Florida Panthers. How about you?
Yeah, I thought the game was won when the Panthers came out and got a power play goal right off the bat to start that second period. I didn't think that they were gonna lose that lead. I thought they would take it and run with it as soon as they got that. They've played such a good defensive game lately. It's almost a lock when the power play scores that the Panthers are going to shut the game down and win. When special team struggles, that's when the team struggles as a whole. But when they get that power play goal, it seems like that more often than not is the thing that can push them over the top. And I think after Sam Reinhart scored on the power play, I really had no concerns the rest of the way. I figured they would pull it out, but definitely have to give some credit to the penalty kill tonight. There's been a couple times on this road trip where they've had to kill off extended penalties. You think about Vegas having to kill off a very long 5-on-3. You think of the double minor tonight. The penalty kill has stepped up in some really intense situations with extended time shorthanded. And I think that double minor kill was crucial. And I think the kill to start the third period was big. But for me, it's still special teams. But for me, it was the power play versus the penalty kill that really gave them the edge tonight. But yeah, we'd like to see a little bit fewer on the high sticking calls. There were a couple of loose sticks tonight that were whacking people in the face. No one's teeth were safe in this game. I don't think anyone lost any, but it got pretty close. Brennan Sod might have to visit the dentist, but that was a pretty intense on the penalty kill, and a lot of high sticks. Got to cut down the stick infractions, but the penalty kill is holding their own for sure.
Yeah, even Lomberg was grabbing onto his teeth in the game too.
Yeah.
So glad that he's okay as well as far as that. So thank goodness as far as that for sure. But great road trip for the Panthers coming home now as they will be facing the Los Angeles Kings at home, who are currently on a 6-game losing streak. But we're going to talk more of Kings on tomorrow's edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. But I want to dedicate segment number 3 to discuss more about another report on Panthers extensions. But we might have a little bit of a different idea of who could possibly get an extension as well, of the names that we probably haven't mentioned in the last few weeks. We're going to discuss that and more here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Jace Medical. And we come to sports to escape some of the crazy realities of real life. But can we talk just for a minute about preparing for real life? According to the FDA, pharmacies are running out of antibiotics like amoxicillin right in the middle of the worst flu season in over a decade. And this is scary. You can't imagine a more helpless feeling than if a significant other of yours or your kids get sick while a supply chain issues kept them from having life-saving medications they needed. Thankfully, you will be okay because of Jace Medical. The Jace case is a pack of 5 different antibiotics to treat a long list of bacterial illnesses, including UTIs, respiratory infections, sinusitis, skin infections, among others. This stuff could happen to any of us. Visit jacemedical.com and complete your physician encounter. It will be reviewed by a board-certified physician, and your medication will be dispensed by a licensed pharmacy at a fraction of the regular cost. It's never been more important to be prepared than today. Go to jacemedical.com and use offer code LOCKEDON to get $20 off your order. That's JASE medical.com. Segment number 3 here on this Wednesday, January 10th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Wednesday edition of the show. So, Jacob, we've been talking for weeks about what future extensions could look like for. We've talked about the big 3 on the roster: Rhino, Montour, and Forsling. And now, and let's backtrack a little bit. And I had to look back at a certain tweet back to November 13th. And this was before Montour and Ekblad came back from injury, about Kevin Weeks reporting something to keep an eye on as far as extensions for one of those 3 or even all 3 of them. Since that, nothing has happened. So we're talking 2 months here. See that same report? Honestly, seeing that again, I just shrug my shoulders and say, no expectations. We saw that report a few months ago, and I'm going to make the conscious choice to not be reactive about it until something happens. Which leads me also to something I thought about as well during the game. We spoke about Weeks and even highlighted yesterday with David Dwork about Kevin Stenlund, defensive zone draws, late game situations. And the Panthers in recent seasons have given extensions to guys in the middle of the season for depth pieces. And two players came to mind. Ryan Lomberg a few years ago and Josh Mahura. I know Josh Mahura is not part of the lineup right now, but still, when you get a depth piece and you believe in them and you think they could be part of your future while giving them somewhat of a raise, I don't expect Kevin Stenlund to get a little like too much of a raise, but I think that Bill Zito should try to extend Kevin Stenlund sometime soon because he can sign an extension at any time. What are your thoughts on the Kevin Weeks report that surfaced again that he went back, he tweeted again the same thing from November, and also a possibility of a Kevin Stenlund extension?
Yeah, so with the Weeks report, I'm not really moved by it. I don't think these discussions or negotiations ever really stopped. I think it's not something that was happening before, was tabled, and then just now picked up again. I don't think that's how that's operated. It may have just been, he may have reported it two separate times, but I think this is an ongoing process. Sam Reinhart obviously is putting up ridiculous numbers right now. You see the William Nylander extension come in, and it can make you a little bit nervous about what Sam Reinhart might command on the open market. So it would make sense to try to get him extended, but I don't think there's any unnecessary pressure for that. I think Brandon Montour, his camp, it'd be smart for them to wait it out personally, because he's had a rough go since he got back from injury. The numbers really aren't there, so it would make sense for him to wait it out and see if he picks up his game. Otherwise, you could see him sign at a discount. And Forsling, that's a guy I think the Panthers are really going to prioritize. I don't think they want to let him go. You find gold like that on the waiver wire, that's someone you want to keep long term. And I don't really worry about that. I think he will be a Panther long term. It's not a situation where it's an intense negotiation. It's not a situation like Steven Stamkos potentially, where he's unhappy with the offers that have been put in front of him. I think it's a matter of time and having to make the cap work, decide who you can fit and who you can't. We'll see how it shakes out, but I'm not moved by that tweet at all. I think it's an ongoing process. And then with Kevin Stenlund, that's an interesting one. I think I really could see him getting like a 1 to 2 year extension and get his salary up over $1 million, which is perfectly reasonable for a fourth line center who can slide up to 3C. And he's proven that he can do that. He's so valuable on the penalty kill, super important with defensive zone draws, and he fits the mold of the big, a lot of size on the fourth line. He fits the mold of what Paul Maurice likes. He's played for Paul Maurice before. I think that's a guy the Panthers want to keep around. So he's shattering his career numbers this year. Definitely shouldn't break the bank. I would be shocked if you have to pay over 1.5 per year for him. Even that might be on the higher end, but perfectly reasonable price for a guy that you can keep around, and he provides really important depth. So if you get him for a 2-year deal and get his salary up over $1 million per year, I think that works for both sides, and I would not be shocked at all to see them pull that off in season.
Yeah, and honestly, I wouldn't even be surprised if it goes to 2. I mean, like no more than that as far as an extension for Stenlund. I mean, just what he does as far as physicality as well. It's not just defensive zone draws and just able to clean up around the net too. I think that's I think that's just a really important attribute that Kevin Stenlund has as far as what he brings to the table as well. And you mentioned Forsling about value on the waiver wire from what they got, and then when someone proves himself the way Forsling has, you try to prioritize. I'm not sure what necessarily what the order is prioritizing the 3 guys as far as Montour, Forsling, and Reinhart. But I think mine would probably be Forsling, Montour, and Reinhart, probably in that order, maybe, because you never know if Mackie Samoskevich could have that goal production. It might take a little bit for him. We haven't seen that out of Anton Lundell in the 2.5, 3 seasons that he's been here. So I mean, but at the same time, how you could be banking on someone just playing a full season versus what as a sure thing. Reinhardt's going to have 3 straight 30-goal seasons in the Florida Panthers sweater. So that's a hard decision as far as letting a guy walk too, as far as that, because of what you can replace that with. And it's not a sure thing as well for the next guy to come in and get the same production out of that. And with the Panthers struggling at first in the season with scoring, but Reinhart being the bright spot, it's kind of a rock and a hard place kind of situation.
Yeah, this is what makes it so challenging with the salary cap. And at the end of the day, in order to keep all these guys, someone's going to be the odd man out. And if you don't keep all of them, one of these three guys is going to be the odd man out. That's just the way it goes. If you want to prioritize keeping all three of them, someone would have to wait until the offseason to get paid. And it would require a trade. And my guess would be that trade would come from the goaltender position, with the amount of money that's being put into the goaltender position right now, with Spencer Knight making $4.5 million on the cap, and Bobrovsky's no trade clause becoming a modified no trade clause. I would guess if you're going to keep all of these guys, there'd be a corresponding move made at the goalie position, which definitely wouldn't want to see any of these guys go. But that would be how you make that math work. Now that's obviously a discussion to have in the off season. We don't worry about that right now, because this is a contender, and you want to keep a contender together. So we'll have that discussion when it's time to have that discussion. But with those three guys, I think Forsling probably would be the one I'd prioritize the most. He's been consistent since we picked him up, and like I said, you find a diamond in the rough like that, you don't want to let him walk, and you don't want to let someone else reap the benefits of what you've developed. And I think he's really developed into a cornerstone piece. To me, he's kind of what the Panthers hoped Mike Matheson was going to turn into. Just a incredible skater, super reliable defensively, blocks shots, does everything right, can contribute offensively in all situations, type of defender. He's a guy you want to keep around. And then when you look at Reinhart and Montour, I think Montour had really the one breakout year, but it's an absolutely monster year. So you can't discount that. And then Sam Reinhart, he's been consistent. He's played with a lot of different line mates, but the big question was, can he do it with Barkov? Because he hadn't been able to really until this year, and now he's showing he can. So I can understand committing long-term to him. He fits the timeline with the other guys on the team, the rest of the core, all about the same age. And that would make a lot of sense. And I think one other thing that you consider with this is you also want to look at what you gave up to get these guys. And Brandon Montour came at the cost of a third-round pick. Sam Reinhart came at the cost of Devin Levi and a first. That's a little bit higher price, and I think that probably pushes him above Montour in the pecking order for who gets paid first.
Fair enough.
At the end of the day, I'd love to see all three of them stay. And if you can make the math work, and if all three of those guys are committed maybe to taking a little less to make sure someone else gets theirs, that wouldn't shock me at all. But again, this is a contending team, so we'll let the contracts work themselves out. That's what Zito gets paid for, and we get to hopefully watch this team compete for a Stanley Cup again this year. So it should be a good ride.
Yeah, I'm definitely not jealous of that position as far as like who to pay, who not to pay, and all that stuff. So definitely not. But Jacob, I want to thank you so much for joining me once again on another successful Winans Wednesday edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Now an 8-game winning streak for the Florida Panthers, as they will return home on Thursday night against the LA Kings, 90s night from Amerant Bank Arena. So tell everybody where they can follow you online, my friend.
Yep, you can follow me on X at Jacob Winans 8. My phone is blowing up since that game ended. So shout out to that Blues fan who handed his hat to a Panthers fan to throw on the ice. It seems like every Panthers fan on earth seemed to see that and is now just spamming that post. So shout out to Panthers fans and that Blues fan for doing the right thing in that situation. That was really cool. That's what we like to see.
Yep, for sure. And thank you once again, and I'll see you next week, my friend.
Awesome. Looking forward to it.
And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey with Flip Livingstone and Stu Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez with Jacob Winans, and you've been listening to Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.